The legend of the Aurora Express. The Carpathian Mountains were a realm of mist and shadow, their towering peaks sheltering ancient mysteries. For centuries, villagers along their rugged trails whispered stories of cursed places and restless spirits. Among these tales, none was more infamous than the disappearance of the Aurora Express in 1937. The Aurora Express was a masterpiece of its time, an engineering marvel that promised to connect the remote mountain towns with the bustling metropolises of Eastern Europe. On its maiden voyage, it carried over 100 passengers, businessmen, artists, honeymooners, and a handful of enigmatic individuals who left no records of their origins. The train departed as scheduled, gliding into the foggy evening. It was last heard from while approaching the infamous Black Tunnel. The operator's final message to the Rockland station dispatcher was chilling in its normalcy. Approaching tunnel now, all systems nominal. Arrival expected in 12 minutes. The train never arrived. Search parties scoured the region, but neither the Aurora Express nor its passengers were ever found. No wreckage, no bodies, only the barren silence of the mountains. Over time, the story of the Aurora became a myth. Locals claimed to hear its whistle on moonless nights, a ghostly sound that chilled the blood. It was said that those who heard it would vanish within a week. Claimed by the train, years passed and the legend faded. Few remembered the Aurora Express until now. Chapter 2. Marina's second chance. Marina Kozlov sat in her cramped Bucharest apartment, a cigarette burning to ash between her fingers. The dim light of her desk lamp illuminated piles of rejected articles and unanswered emails. She had been a rising star in investigative journalism until an expose on political corruption unraveled her career. Her key source had vanished, leaving her story unverified, and Marina became a pariah in her field. Desperation gnawed at her, with her reputation in tatters and her savings drained. She was one eviction notice away from homelessness. It was during one of these bleak nights that she found the letter. She noticed it tucked under her door, written on aged yellow paper with no return address. The message was simple yet unsettling. If you seek redemption, come to Rockland Station, midnight, Friday. The Aurora Express waits for you. Marina's heart skipped. The Aurora Express. Her grandmother had told her stories of the ghost train as a child, but this was no bedtime tale. Someone knew about her connection to the legend. Redemption, she muttered, reading the note again. The timing was suspicious. Marina had nothing to lose. If this was a hoax, it would still make a compelling article. If it wasn't, she didn't dare finish the thought. Chapter 3. Rockland's Shadows. Rockland Station was a place where time had stopped. The train platform, once bustling with life, was now overrun with weeds. The clock tower's hands were frozen at 7:30 a.m., rusted and broken. The nearby village was barely inhabited, its streets eerily silent. Marina arrived on the evening train, clutching her camera and notebook. The air felt heavy, oppressive, as though the mountains themselves were watching her. The few locals she encountered refused to speak about the Aurora Express. When she mentioned the train, they turned pale and muttered prayers under their breath. "Don't go to the station at night," warned an elderly woman selling candles by the roadside. "The train doesn't bring people back." Marina dismissed the warning but couldn't shake the chill that crept up her spine. At precisely midnight, she stood alone on the platform, the fog curling around her like a living thing. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, faint at first, she heard the whistle, a haunting, mournful sound that grew louder with each passing second. A light pierced the darkness, growing brighter as the Aurora Express emerged from the fog. The train was pristine, its silver body gleaming as though it had been polished moments before. When the doors hissed open, Marina hesitated. The platform felt colder, the air charged with an unnatural energy. She glanced behind her. The station was empty, the village lights distant and dim. The letter's words echoed in her mind. "The Aurora waits for you." Swallowing her fear, she stepped aboard. Chapter 4. Echoes of the past. The interior of the train was breathtaking. It was a time capsule of 1930s luxury, rich mahogany paneling, velvet upholstery, and chandeliers that cast a warm golden glow. Marina ran her hand along the polished wood, marveling at how untouched everything seemed. Yet something felt off. The train was too perfect, as if frozen in a moment. Plates of food sat on dining tables, steam still rising from cups of coffee. A newspaper lay open on a seat, its headline dated October 14, 1937. She explored further, her footsteps muffled by thick carpeting. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional creak of the train. In the sleeper car, she found a suitcase labeled L. V. Inside was a diary. Marina flipped through its pages, her breath catching as she read. The train feels wrong. The air is heavy, and the passengers they've changed. They don't blink, don't breathe. The final entry sent a chill down her spine. We've entered the black tunnel. But we're not alone. Shadows move in the corners, whispering our names. The conductor is no longer human. Chapter 5. The passengers return. As Marina read, the train began to hum softly, its vibrations resonating in her chest. She looked up and froze. The once empty seats were now filled with passengers. They were dressed in 1930s attire, their faces strangely blurred, as if viewed through frosted glass. They sat unnaturally still, their heads turning in unison to face her. Marina backed away, clutching the diary. A low voice broke the silence. "Miss Kozlov." She turned to see a tall figure in a conductor's uniform. His face was sharp, his eyes dark and unyielding. "How do you know my name?" she demanded. "The Aurora knows all who board," he replied with a faint smile. "It has been waiting for you." Chapter 6. The conductor's warning. The conductor's presence dominated the space, his eyes holding Marina as though he could see through her. His smile, though faint, sent a chill down her spine. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his tone conversational but laced with something deeper, something ominous. "The Aurora doesn't welcome uninvited guests." "I was invited," Marina retorted, holding up the letter. "This doesn't look like an accident." The conductor's smile faded. He studied the letter for a moment, then handed it back. "You were invited, yes. But the question remains, are you prepared for what comes next?" "What does that mean?" Before he could answer, the train jolted. The chandeliers swayed, their light flickering as a deep groan reverberated through the carriages. The conductor straightened. "We're nearing the black tunnel," he said, turning abruptly. "Stay in your cabin. And do not under any circumstances leave when the train stops." Marina's protests were cut off by the slam of the door behind him. Chapter 7. The black tunnel. The train slowed, its rhythmic clatter growing uneven. Marina moved to the nearest window, straining to see through the fog. Ahead, the black tunnel loomed, a jagged maw carved into the mountainside. The darkness beyond seemed alive, shifting and undulating like a living thing. As the train entered, all light vanished. The chandeliers dimmed until only faint, ghostly orbs hovered above. Marina's breath quickened as a suffocating silence engulfed the train, and then the whispers began. Faint at first, indistinct murmurs danced on the edge of hearing. Marina pressed herself against the window, searching for the source, but the darkness outside was absolute. The whispers grew louder, distinct words forming her name. "Marina, Marina," her pulse raced. She turned from the window, clutching the diary she'd found earlier. The pages felt warm in her hands, and as she flipped through them, new writing began to appear, jagged, erratic scrawls. "Do not stop. Do not leave. They are waiting." A metallic screech shattered the whispers. The train lurched violently, throwing Marina to the floor. When she looked up, the chandeliers had gone dark, leaving her in pitch blackness. Chapter 8. The ghostly passengers. When the lights flickered back on, the scene had changed. The dining car was filled with passengers, their blurred faces twisted in frozen expressions. Some turned toward her, their movements jerky, unnatural. Marina backed away, her heart pounding. "Who are you?" she demanded. A woman in an elegant evening gown stood, her head tilting unnaturally to one side. Her voice was hollow, distant. "Or what you will become." "What does that mean?" Marina asked, her voice shaking. The passengers rose in unison, their blurred faces smoothing into perfect, haunting replicas of her own. Hundreds of Marina Kozlovs stared back at her, their lips curling into identical menacing smiles. Panic surged through her. She bolted toward the rear of the train, the passengers' hollow laughter echoing behind her. Chapter 9. The forgotten truth. Marina found herself in the caboose, the farthest car on the train. It was empty, except for a single item, the Zionist's steel briefcase. The lock was broken, it slid slightly ajar. She hesitated, then opened it fully. Inside was a stack of papers filled with calculations, diagrams, and frantic notes. A faded photograph lay on top. The Zionist standing in front of the Aurora Express, his face drawn and tired. The papers detailed an experiment gone horribly wrong. The scientist had been transporting a prototype device, a machine designed to manipulate time and space. He had activated it inside the black tunnel, creating a rift that trapped the train in a liminal space between worlds. "We're not alone," Red once groaned. "The rift has brought them here. They feed on us, on our memories, our identities. The train is their hunting ground now." Marina felt the blood drain from her face. The Aurora wasn't just a ghost train, it was a prison, a feeding ground for the malevolent entities that had come through the rift. Chapter 10. The conductor stealed. The door behind her creaked open. Marina whirled to find the conductor standing in the doorway. "You've found the truth," he said, his voice low, "but knowing it won't save you." "What are they?" Marina demanded. "What did they want?" "They are echoes, shadows of the rift," he explained. "They crave identity, memories, a sense of being. When you boarded the train, you became part of its story. Now they want you to stay." "No," she said firmly. "I'm leaving." The conductor shook his head. "Leaving isn't that simple. The Aurora doesn't let go, not without a price." "What kind of price?" He hesitated. "Give it what it wants most, a memory you cherish. The deeper the loss, the greater your chance of escape." Marina's mind raced. She thought of her childhood, her grandmother's stories, her dreams of being a journalist. Each memory felt sacred, irreplaceable, but there was one memory she could part with. Chapter 11. The sacrifice. Marina knelt on the floor, her hands trembling as she clutched the diary. She whispered to the train, offering it the memory of her career, the years of struggle, triumph, and eventual downfall. "I give you this," she said, tears streaming down her face. "Take it and let me go." The train shuddered violently. The air grew thick, suffused with a strange energy. Marina collapsed as a searing pain shot through her mind, erasing the memory she had offered. When she woke, she was lying on the tracks near Rockland Station. The Aurora Express was gone, the night eerily silent. Chapter 12. The haunting legacy. Back in Bucharest, Marina found herself a stranger to her own life. Her articles, once a source of pride, felt alien. The awards on her shelf meant nothing. She couldn't remember the stories behind them, but the whispers didn't stop. On quiet nights, she heard the faint whistle of the Aurora Express. In reflections, she caught glimpses of blurred faces, their hollow eyes watching her. One morning, she found a letter on her desk. It was written on yellow paper, the words chillingly familiar. "The Aurora remembers."